I'm Matt.
And I'm Rissa.
And we're here to coach you on how to have an exceptional life.
And today we're going to be talking about the past, the present, and the future.
That would encompass pretty much everything, I think, then.
Oh, wow. Can we do that in a short video?
No, we cannot.
Well, we'll give it our best shot. So, I've already gone through coaching with you and I get these ideas. I'm on board with them. But I think for this video, it's helpful if I go back to my previous mindset and fight you a little bit on these.
I think that is great. I think it's something that we all deal with, is being able to fight back against some of the conversations that we're going to have today. And I'll even say, with you as a viewer, I would love for you to put yourself in the mindset of, what would you say and where would you argue in these? Feel free to pause the video and see what arguments that you would make against some of the things that we're talking about today.
We would love to hear about them. Maybe add them in the comments below.
Wonderful. So today we're going to talk about the past, the present, and the future.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll start with the past.
Right.
Because why not?
It came first.
It did. Very good. We're both very clear that the past exists. There is a time before this. I was born, I was raised, etc. Right?
Yeah.
So it's very clear that the past exists.
Right. There's a past of this video right now.
Exactly. You can rewind to see it. Show me the past.
Okay, I'm going to rewind the video and I'm going to point to what you said at the beginning of the video.
Exactly. Very good. Right? The reason I want you to be able to show me the past is we are clear that the past is a thing. And I happen to have decorative table objects right here, right? This vase exists in reality.
Yeah.
It has distance, it has time, it has form, it has mass. We both agree that this exists, and the way that we prove that it exists is we look at its properties. Okay, great. So when I say, show me the past, that's how we're going to demonstrate that the past exists. And you are going to rewind the video and say, hey, you see, they just said these things already. My argument would be that what you're showing me is right now. You're showing me a specific time in a video, but the when that you are showing me that video is right now.
Okay. All right, fine. So, I have a scar on my wrist, and that is from the past. That's when I got injured.
Exactly. And you remember the moment, how it happened.
I sure do.
Exactly. Again, the argument would be made that the when that you're showing me the scar is right now. And yes, scars can happen after birth. Scars can happen from birth. But the scar itself is right now. You're still showing me things that currently exist. And to go back to the video example, which is great, right? If we look at books, if we look at pictures, if we look at videos, what we're ultimately looking at is a representation of the past in the current moment, right? History is written by the victors. Catherine the Great and horses. All of these things may or may not be reality. They are interpretations of. One of my favorite videos are shot from a perspective and represent at best a moment in time or a series of moments in time from a specific perspective. But when Blair Witch Project came out, there was a giant argument over, is this actual found footage? Is this made up found footage? Is this a real thing? Is this a false thing? All of these things are still always happening in this current moment. So I argue that those things still are not the past.
This is really hard because the past matters. What happened in the past is what helps form who I am today.
It's so wonderfully said, right? If I was to ask you, why are you the person you are? You would say, it is because of how I was raised. It's my parents. It's my siblings. It's my friends. It's where I grew up. It's the activities that I was told I could or could not do, etc. It's a whole conglomeration of things that we would collectively refer to as your past, right? But you still haven't shown me the past.
Ah,
right?
Matt.
there is still no physical representation. There's nothing that impacts distance, time, and form that is the past.
This is just mind-blowing, Matt. You're rocking my world.
So I don't want to go too far down the rails, right? I'm not saying that there wasn't a moment in time before this moment in time. Of course there was, right? What I am pointing to, though, is that the past, as we discuss it, it simply doesn't exist. The past as reality, like our vase, it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
What we do have is the stories and interpretations that we tell about our past. And we treat those stories and interpretations of our past as if it was the actual past. But it's not.
I think the really beautiful part about that is it's all context. It's the stories we've told. It's our way of figuring out what those events mean. They happened. The fact that they happen is reality.
Yes.
But the way that we talk about them, the way that we learn from them or feel about them, that is our context and story that we've created.
Perfect. That's exactly it, right? Human beings conflate what actually happened with our interpretation of what happened. And then we treat our interpretation of what happened as the actual past.
Yeah.
And it's just not so. You know, one of the stories that I share with my clients that really hammered this home for me was when I first started doing personal development. I was 28 years old. And there was a conversation about parents. And it included a very stark reminder. He had everybody who was between the ages of 22 and 25 stand up. And then he said, look around the room. This is the average age for a first-time parent. And I was 28, and these people looked like children to me, right? And if you had given me a child at 28, I would have called the police because I was not responsible enough to be able to take care of a life. But my parents were 25 when I was born, right? And they divorced when I was 2, and I ended up going to live with my father when I was 13, and I lived with him from the ages of 13 to 17. And for the last decade of my life, from 18 to 28, I had told anybody who would listen that the reason I was the man that I was because I would ask myself, what would my father do in this situation? And then I would do the opposite. Dad had had a number of business ventures that had been briefly successful and then failed spectacularly. Dad had back surgery when he was 17. At the time, they just drill into your back a few times and, hope that makes a difference. And then it doesn't. It's scar tissue. Dad was dealing with, an addiction to pain medication on occasions. I had spent a decade explaining to people that I had had such a difficult upbringing that was why I had turned into the wonderful person that I was. Which, on the one hand, yay for me, but on the other hand, my relationship with my father was not good. And so I went and I called him after this conversation, and I said, I want to tell you something. And he said, okay. And I said, I have told people for the last decade of my life that you were a terrible father. And he said, I know. And I didn't know that he knew. And I said, I want you to know that I will never again say that to anyone. Because while my father had done a lot of things that didn't work well with the way I wanted to be raised, we didn't have a phone. We didn't have a car, right? when I looked at the things that were most important to me in my life, the things that I was most proud of, one was no matter how many times I got knocked down, I always got back up.
Mm-hmm.
But that was my father, right? He had an arcade business in the 80s, which had, failed. And then he had sold exotic cars until his partner, stole the business. And then he got into computers. Like, he had failed at a number of things, but he had been wildly successful at them and then always found another thing to go to.
Mm-hmm.
And the second thing I was most proud of myself for was I'll do anything for anybody, right? You need the shirt off my back, I'll give you my pants, right? And one of the reasons things were so tough for us financially is that when things were going well, Dad would take care of anybody who was around, friends, loved ones, sometimes even strangers, right? Those people weren't always there when we needed them, right? But he was nothing if not generous to the people around him. But here's the thing. I never told that part of the story to anybody, right?
Yeah.
It didn't tell the story that I wanted to have, which was me overcoming this horrible past, this difficulty that I had gone through on my own.
Mm-hmm.
I never told those parts of the story. So I apologized to him. I told him I love you. He cried. I cried, right? And for the remaining 20 years of his life, we had an amazing relationship. He still made terrible financial decisions. He still sent money to his soon-to-be wife in Brazil that he had met online, that he had never seen, right? But he was my dad.
Yeah.
And I was proud of how I was raised. And I was proud to be his son. Now, setting aside all the emotion that comes with that, because I only tell that story when I am doing it inside of the realm of coaching. The key here is nothing changed about my past.
Yep. It happened the way it happened.
Everything happened the way that it happened. Whatever got you your scar, got you your scar.
Mm-hmm.
It really did happen.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, the past changed completely.
Yeah.
I was no longer somebody who was raised by a bad father. I was no longer somebody who had to do it all on my own. I was someone who was loved. I was somebody who was raised by somebody who did the best that he could with the tools that he had. My past changed completely.
And did you enjoy the new narrative more?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course, right? And that's the whole point, right? That's the whole point of coaching, right? Is to be able to change the narrative that you're dealing with. I just didn't know that that was even possible.
Mm-hmm.
You see, I can't change this vase.
Yeah.
I can't make this into a
baseball.
Very good. I was going to go with sandwich. But I can't, right? Yes, I can melt it down, blah, blah, blah. But in the moment, it is what it is. And to wish it was something different is a futile effort. And that is how we as human beings treat the past.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever happened to me really happened to me. I really was bad at math. I really don't have any musical ability. Whatever, I've been told by, the people in my past relationships, I guess I just am that way. I'm not meant to be with somebody, or whatever litany of other things that comprise our past just don't mean what we think they mean. Mm-hmm. They really did happen. But they're not happening to us right now.
Yeah.
If you broke your leg when you were playing with your friend when you were 6 and you learned, well, I can never do anything athletic. No, you really did break your leg and your leg really was broken when it was broken. That doesn't have any impact on you right now. Mm-hmm. But we keep bringing it with us. We don't get complete. See our video on completion coming soon. But we don't try and change our past because we think the past is real. Just like I don't try and change the vase. But it's not real. Mm-hmm. The key thing to take away from this conversation is there is no past. Mm-hmm. The past just doesn't exist.
So if the past doesn't exist, what does that change?
Whatever you want it to have changed, right? If the past doesn't exist, we don't have to be dominated by it. We spend so much of our time dealing with frustrations and upsets about the past. Mm-hmm. we don't have to deal with that anymore. Whatever happened really did happen, but that's it. There's no emotional attachment that needs to be added to it.
Okay. So the past doesn't exist. What about the future?
Very good. So that's my question, right? What about the future? Because it's much easier to get there once we've had the conversation with the past.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the correct answer is the future doesn't exist.
Yes.
We don't know what tomorrow holds. You know, all the things that are written are a mystery to us, blah, blah, blah. But even while people will say this intellectually, that's not how we deal with the future.
Yeah.
I know how tomorrow's going to go because I knew how today was going to go. I knew it was going to go pretty much like yesterday, which went pretty much like the day before. And turns out I was right.
Yeah.
We don't actually live like the future is there to be written.
Mm.
If I were to ask you, how is your next day, week, and month going to go? You'd tell me, and most of the time, you'd be right.
Yeah.
But there are times where you are horribly wrong.
Yeah.
Right? My birthday is at the end of February.
Mm-hmm.
February 2020, I had friends fly in from all over the country.
Yeah.
I had 80 friends at my birthday party. You were one of them.
Yeah.
And at the time, a number of us then made plans. When are we going to see each other again? March, let's go to Vegas. April, let's go to New Orleans. What a wonderful time this is going to be. Bought tickets, made reservations.
I was going to get married.
What happened?
I didn't.
Because?
We weren't supposed to be around people.
Very good, right? There was a pandemic, right? We knew how the future was going to go until it didn't go that way.
Yeah.
But we don't live like that.
Yeah, we don't.
So most, and by most I mean 99.9999% of our time is filled with frustrations about the past, fear about the future, sacrificing, hoping, wishing that something would go a certain way one day, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And that causes us to miss the one moment that we can actually do anything in life, which is right now.
Yeah. And then right now again.
And then right now, because you missed that one.
Oh, shoot.
But now there's a new one, right? But now that one's gone. But now there's a new one, right? We keep missing this moment, which is the only time that is actually real.
Mm-hmm.
There is no past. There is no future. You've got this moment to do it.
Yeah.
And then we just have a successive series of nows that we either take advantage of or often we don't. And that's the point of past, present, and future, is the past doesn't exist. The future doesn't exist. You've got one moment, and right now, thank you for spending it with us, is the one that you can do it in. So,
can be extremely powerful.
Yes, because we keep not taking action right now. Because we already know how it'll go. Because we already know how it went.
Yeah. And so many times we never check in again with something. I liked the story you had about breaking your leg and then saying, well, I'm not athletic, I got hurt. How long ago was 6 years old? For a lot of us, that was a very long time ago.
Yeah.
We've changed significantly since 6 years old.
Yeah.
We are different people.
I'm not musical. I'm not athletic. I'm not funny.
I'm not an artist.
I'm not an artist. There's so many of these, right? But if we can let go of I'm not because, and we can just go in this moment, this is what I'm going to do, or this is who I'm going to be, even better, right? And if you're willing to be bad until you get good.
You can be basically anything.
Basically anything.
Yeah. So the power of no past, no future is that we can create ourselves without the past.
Absolutely. And that's the beautiful thing is if I'm not defined by my past and if I'm not going to be confined by my future, the answer to who am I can be whatever I say,
Wow.
right? I may have spent a significant part of my life being shy or being quiet or being angry or whatever. And if I don't want to be that person anymore, the beautiful thing is I can stop and take a different action right now in this moment, because this is the only moment that we have available to us.
Yeah. Really empowering. And I think that's like what is so amazing about coaching.
I agree.
If you would like to spend more time with us, how can you do that?
Well, you can do that at www.anexceptionallife.com/newsletter. Sign up there and you'll be able to find out when we're releasing more videos. You'll also be the first to know about 24 hours of coaching. And if you'd like an assignment to take on after this to do right now, then what you can take on is, what are the stories that have defined you? What are the things that an hour ago you would have said are a constraint or the truth about what you can and can't do, who you can and can't be? And then just start dismantling them by taking some small action right now, and then take another small action in the next now, and just see where that leads you. Thank you so much for your time and your attention today.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Resources will be in the description below.